So one of the biggest misconceptions that I hear pretty frequently is when someone will ask something like, isn't the weather all the same in the high country? Kind of. In today's video, we're going to talk about how just a short distance between a handful of these towns really can create totally different experiences in the high country. So the 4Bs, that's what we're going to talk about today. Beech Mountain, Banner Elk, Blowing Rock, and Boone. And we'll talk about at those elevations, what you can expect and why it matters. So elevation does matter, and more than just looking on the map. When you're in the high country, every 1,000 feet of elevation change roughly translates to about 3 to 5 degrees in temperature differential. And while that may not sound like a big deal, a couple thousand feet can be the difference between air conditioning and open windows. All right, so here is where I want to do something where you can kind of see it more visually. I'm super visual, that's how I learn. I'm going to take the 4Bs, as we've talked about, and kind of go south to north, if that makes sense, or maybe lowest elevation to highest elevation more appropriately. Let's start at the lowest elevation, which is Boone, which roughly sits at about 3,300 feet. And I did make some notes, but you'll see it on the screen. The average high in August, let's say, is 79 degrees. Now, as you move towards Blowing Rock, you go up in elevation, you're going to be at about 3,500 feet, and that same average high drops to about 75 degrees, so you can see a little bit of a shift. Banner Elk, you go up to 3,700 feet, the high drops to 73, again, a further shift. And then when you get into Beech Mountain and parts of Sugar Mountain, as an example, where you can get elevations in the 5,000 feet range. Beech Mountain claims 5,506. That's the actual summit of the mountain. The town sits at about 5,100 feet. But in general, when you're looking at that, you're about 70, let's say 3 degrees. So I probably didn't memorize all these correctly or get them all right, but they're on the screen. Anyways, I share that to talk about from the highest to the lowest. You're looking at about a 6-degree difference in average temperature. So don't let this be the only factor, meaning elevation. Don't let that be the only factor as you're really evaluating where you want to be in the high country. Let's look at what your needs are, what your wants are, both in terms of the home or the property itself, but also the lifestyle. And so let's dive into that a little bit. What do I mean by a lifestyle? Like, this is the energy, this is the lifeblood, this is all the things that you're going to want to do when you're in the high country. How are you going to use the property? Which town is most aptly suited to match kind of what you want to do in and around it? And it's not just about comfort. This is really about how you live. So again, let's go through the 4Bs. With Boone, you're going to have a different energy level. You're going to have a lot more options of things to do. It is a college town. So depending on the time of the year that you're there, school might be in session, it might not be in session. But regardless, you've got more dining options. You've got cultural events. You've got theater. There's just a lot more. This is the main hub of the high country. And then you move over towards Blowing Rock. It is super quaint. It is a charming downtown. It gets written up all the time as one of the most charming southern towns, walkable downtown. Great dining, although I'm horrified to report that Bistro Roca burnt down 2 weeks ago. It's we've had the most amazing memories there. Great news. They've actually put together a huge GoFundMe fund. It's already over $100,000 for the staff, and the owners have fully committed to rebuilding. So excited to see what further memories we can make there, because it was like fine dining, but casual. And it was actually the oldest bar. I think Antler Bar is the oldest consistently operating bar in North Carolina, even during Prohibition. And from what I understand, the basement was like a speakeasy during Prohibition. Anyways, tons of shopping, tons of walkable restaurants. You've got just a great downtown. You've got a park area in Blowing Rock. Then we go to Banner Elk, and it's kind of a foodie town, which is interesting because it's not real big. It's smaller than Blowing Rock, but a lot of restaurants, and per capita, who knows? You could probably rival some large cities, but a much different feel. It's kind of where luxury meets lifestyle, I would call it. You're in between Sugar Mountain and Beech Mountain. People call it the Vale of the Southeast. That's a stretch, but it is pretty amazing, and it's just the views are incredible, and you're starting to get, again, a little bit higher elevation, 3,700 feet. And then when we get to Beech Mountain, you've got super cool mountain breezes, especially if you're going to be kind of mid to high up on the mountain. You're likely not even going to need air conditioning in the summertime. And the difference between Beech Mountain and Sugar Mountain is there's really no commercial space on Sugar Mountain. Beech Mountain, you do have a handful. I won't say it's like a city up there, but you have a handful of restaurants between, you have the Brick Oven, you've got Bullwinkle's, Alpen, you do have what's now the Whistle Pig, so Fred's, of course, but like all of that is walkable depending on where you are at the higher elevations. And certainly it's just a short drive from just about anywhere else on the mountain. And I'll just say this, so like because everybody feels a little bit different, 78 degrees might be your perfect comfort range, and for others it could be 68 degrees. So going back to those, various towns when we put up the weather, or the averages rather, you can get a sense of, is there a place that maybe is better for you? And depending on the months that you intend to use the property, to best match what you're looking for. And I think I've shared this story before, but it is pretty funny. So we owned on Beech Mountain. As you know, we're kind of renting our way around to really narrow down the community and the location that we want to be in long term. I think that brings value to you, quite honestly, because we're experiencing it. We're not returning to the same home or the same property every single day. We're in Boone, we're in Blowing Rock, we're renting in Eagle's Nest, as an example. We've been in Blue Ridge Mountain Club. So it brings more to the table, in my opinion. But where I was going, when we owned on Beech, we could walk to, at the time it was the Ale House, it's now the Whistle Pig, as I mentioned. And we were sitting there one afternoon, and my wife and I were just having a beer, and this couple came in, and we got to talking with them, and it was really funny. So they were there, it's pet friendly, they had their dog out, and they said to us something like,
"Oh my gosh, it's so hot in Boone today."
They drove to Beech Mountain. And they're not wrong. There's probably a 5-degree difference between those two, 6 degrees. I don't know, you saw the chart, but isn't it funny? Like they literally drove to Beech Mountain because it was 6 degrees cooler. So anyways, it does make a difference. And I'll just say this as it relates to kind of the cooler nights. Regardless of where you are in the high country, if you're coming from Florida and most of the parts of the Carolinas, it's going to be cooler at night. Does that give you an opportunity to sleep better? And sleeping better generally leads to more wellness and health and activity. So like it directly translates into taking advantage of some of these trails, going on some of the hikes, just being outdoors more in general, getting natural vitamin D, sitting out. Like I have a rep, we have an agent on our team here in Southwest Florida, and he'll say things like, you got to sit in the sun 15 minutes a day to get your vitamin D. But there's other things that, we all love to enjoy, and that's like dining al fresco, being outside. I mean, it's just being in the high country that time of year, ultimately, regardless of where you land, just creates such opportunities to live a different lifestyle, more likely than anywhere you're coming from. So this was a bit of a shorter video. I just wanted to put the actual data up so you could see the differences between the 4 main areas as it relates to elevation. But if summer is on your mind and buying a place in the high country is something that you're considering, let's have a conversation, because where you buy does matter, but maybe not even as much as what you buy or the community that you buy into. And so if you'd like some help matching up your lifestyle to maybe what's important and what's available in the high country, I'd love to help guide and be a part of that process. Call me anytime. My information is on the screen. I do read every comment. Please leave a comment. Please like, subscribe to the channel, share the videos if any of these are helpful, and I look forward to talking with you real soon.